Hi everybody, Martin again, and this is the second episode of the vlog. In this one I'm going to look at, I'll be doing another book recommendation, talking about wax, and also I'll be recommending another YouTube channel that I think if you tie flies you'd be quite interested in and it would be worth watching. So a wee bit of kind of housekeeping before we start is I've been asked, I've started mentioning the Patreon and giveaways, and I've had a couple of messages about it. Basically what I'm going to do is periodically I'll tie up a box of flies and I'll make them available. They'll be in a giveaway for patrons, but that's contingent on me getting 50 patron supporters. The way I'll do it is it would be like build per creation. It wouldn't be a monthly subscription or anything. It would just be as and when I made the box I would stick a photo on Patreon with the details of the fly box, and anybody that was already a patron would be billed like a couple of bucks or whatever, and then they'd be entered into a draw. Just randomly draw it from a hat. I might even film it on the vlog, and then I'll send that box of flies anywhere in the world to anybody, anyone in the world that is entered. Free, you know, that's it. So that's all I wanted to clear that up. A few people seemed a little bit maybe confused about how it was going to work. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was wax. Right, there's on the Facebook groups like Fly Tying, my Uncle Cheech and all that, and the fly tying community, there's been like a million questions about wax, and it's pretty apparent that most people don't actually understand what wax is for when they're fly tying. I mean, I kind of hate the term dubbing wax. It should be like I think if it's fly tying wax, you almost never want to use wax for dubbing, right? The only dubbing situation that I will use wax is either if I'm making a dubbing loop with something that's quite slick. For example, if you've watched the Buck and Dub shrimp video, there's a dubbing loop there with EP fibres. I'll wax that loop just to let the loop grip the fibres before I twist it. Right, that's it. It's just to get a bit more grip to the thread. Or touch dubbing, then you want a really soft tacky wax where you're just touching the thread and not actually twisting it on. Right. For standard dubbing, like noodles as some people call it, the key thing is learning to prepare your dubbing properly. There's a great article in the Global Fly Fisher about that. I might do some videos on it in the future. Getting the right pressure, you can always twist harder than you think, and don't try to overload your thread, right? All this, I see these comments, use Pritt Stick, use chapstick, use a bit of spit, don't use wax, use loads of wax, right? Learn to dub properly, right? Just practice. It's not easy the first time you do it, but if you just stick at it and learn to do it properly, you'll no need to resort to like bad technique. Using Pritt Stick isn't going to fix your bad technique if you learn to do it. If you learn to do it better, your flies will be nicer. You can remove the dubbing for the thread far more easily if you've got too much on, right? What I do use wax for is adding grip to my thread. Obviously I don't do a lot of trout flies or salmon flies on my channel, it's mostly saltwater, so you don't see it that much. But I do use wax to add grip if I want my thread to be sticky. Tying in hollow hairs, things that don't compress, if I just want a wee bit extra grip. You can use it to change the colour of the thread. Like in the Green Whale's Glory, for example, you take a primrose thread and wax it heavily until it goes that sort of yellow, dirty olive. And the other thing is kind of similar to grip. You can heavily wax a small section of thread and wind it onto the fly, and that provides you a lovely, like, sticky base. the material will be like pinned to it as soon as you turn the thread over. So that's my thoughts on wax, right? I'd love to hear what you think about that. If you leave a comment in the description, that'd be great. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was another book suggestion, and this is Modern Terrestrials, right? It's Rick Takahashi and Jerry Hubka. It's a good book. It's a really good book. I mean, at the core of it is a very big pattern list, right? If you just want a pattern list, this book's fantastic. But it's also got some other stuff in it that's worth looking at. It's got a good section on fishing terrestrials for people who might be kind of new to that sort of thing. It's really good for beginners in that respect, I suppose. But it's also nice for more experienced anglers just to read stuff like that. You know, it kind of sometimes like helps crystallise stuff in your mind. It's nice. There's also a nice section on designing terrestrial imitations, right? It's sort of it shows you a very systematic way in how they approach designing their flies. They've got like a list of questions, and I really like that kind of approach. I'm not a big fan of just like inventing new flies for no purpose or whatever. I like to look at a reason to change a pattern and get it to do a certain job. So it's similar to the way I approach it, but slightly different. Yeah, there aren't any step-by-steps really in the book, but I don't really mind that. I like a pattern list, and a picture is fine for me. It's also quite good if you can kind of look at a fly and start trying to reverse engineer it. It's a good way to develop your tie-in, and it also kind of helps you think through the design process again, especially for newer fly tyers. Right? Look at a picture, try to work out how it's created, recreate it, and repeat that in practice, and it will help your tie-in as well as give you like a new pattern. I'm going to put an Amazon link in the description below. If you're thinking about buying this book, it'd be great if you could go through the link. It won't cost you any extra, but it will drive a wee bit of cash my way. Similarly, I'll put a link to the book from the last vlog, George Barron's book. I didn't do that initially in the first episode, so I'm doing it in this one. So the last thing I wanted to just talk about today was a YouTube channel. Some of you might have watched the Hoover shrimp video that I did. It's a variation of Evan Berlson's fly, and I think he's Norwegian, and he ties loads of sea trout flies for fishing in salt water, like coastal sea run browns, but a lot of the patterns are very transferable to other species. Certainly any salmonid that's sea run cutthroats and all that, I'm sure the flies would work for them. But he does videos in Norwegian and English. He's quite entertaining. I like his sort of manner, and the flies are good. His approach is nice, and I'd recommend, if you've not checked him out, you should go over and have a look at some of the videos. You might see something new that you've never seen before, and you might get some ideas for different shrimp or bait fish flies that you could use in your fishery. So I'd thoroughly recommend that. Again, I'll put a link to his channel in the description. Alright, well, thanks for watching. That's episode 2. The feedback from the first one was nice, so I'm just going to keep going as long as you guys are happy to watch them. Headlines, guys. Bye.